Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is the case of the Idaho Moscow quadruple murders. This is the part 2 of Bryan Kohberger's timelines. I was saying earlier that I find it personally not impossible, but very difficult to believe that Kohberger went and unalived 4 people within 60 minutes. Let's say 40 minutes, because it takes a minute for him to get out of the house to his car, start his car and drive off. So within 40 minutes, he couldn't have taken a risk where 6 people live. Like we know, 3 unidentified male DNAs were found there. 2 inside the house and 1 outside. I would find it more easier to believe that there were other people helping Bryan Christopher Kohberger. We know that he went to the house, but there's no footage of him getting out of his car and entering the house and exiting the house. Because if they had that by now, they would have released it. They have the camera of the neighbors, the dash cam. And the dash cam showed us, or we haven't seen it yet, but it shows Kaylee and Maddie coming from the grub truck. We haven't heard of Ethan and Xana's whereabouts. Xana's father clearly said that he spoke to his daughter around 12 at midnight, and Xana said she was going to stay at home and order pizza. So if Xana was at home, most likely Ethan was with her. Isn't it strange that the police was asking us the timeline of Xana and Ethan? They wanted to know their whereabouts from 9:45 at night right up to 1:45. We know that Ethan had a fight with someone in his fraternity, sorry for that, the Sigma Chi. So I wonder what happened there exactly. Was there a grudge that the boys were carrying around? He was upset with his friend because his friend was using steroids, allegedly. And Ethan didn't like that. He threw some words at him, and they had a fight. You can imagine somebody drinking, using steroids, using maybe other social drugs. These are young people. He must have taken it really hard. The guy who got insulted because obviously Xana was there and other girls were there at the party. So I'm not saying that they came and took revenge, but I'm saying there's a chance of that, since the police did not know Xana and Ethan's whereabouts. I showed you all the clip yesterday from the Daily Mail where they said clearly that the police, his thoughts was that somebody came in from the sliding door or the 2 windows. That's very important. I always look at Xana's window and the ladder underneath it. So if the police came to that thought and they haven't told us, Daily Mail is a known newspaper and a media channel. So if they heard that from the police, then we have to change our thoughts and directions of thinking. Because can you picture Bryan Christopher Kohberger climbing up a window? I don't think so. He's too big and too tall for that. Maybe he entered, I'm just thinking maybe he entered from the sliding door. If it was him, it could be Inan Harsh, it could be anyone allegedly. So whoever entered from the sliding door, while it made it kind of busy so that the people didn't understand, when he came in from the sliding door, maybe others came in from the window. You can see the clip. You can go back and see the clip that I put up yesterday, where Daily Mail says that the police think that the suspect or suspects could have come from the inside the sliding door or the two windows. And I showed you in that same clip, Daily Mail said that they took an interview with a neighbor who said that while she went out for a walk at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, the front door was wide open. I've had this discussion, some live chats, and they always tell me, why would you come out with fake information and all? I showed them that, and it's up to them to believe. So the Daily Mail says that, and I've seen a clip which I'm still searching for, where the police chief Fry says it himself. He said, yes, we heard that the door was wide open, but we can't discuss about that because you'll hear more about it in the trial. So picture this. Somebody came in from the sliding door. Did they leave from the front door? If it was Kohberger who did this, why would he go out from the exit? Don't forget that Dylan Mortensen, DM, said in affidavit he walked past by her and he left from the sliding door. So why was the front door wide open? And why did the police think that somebody came in from the windows or the sliding doors? Actually, they came in from both, if you ask me. Allegedly. And that makes more sense because Xana got a food order, so she could have been sitting in the living room, since the Good Vibes picture has a fingerprint. That is one of the 3 unidentified DNAs. So now we have a door that's wide open. We have a sliding door that allegedly BK came in from, according to DM. And we've heard about the police saying somebody could have come in possibly from the windows. So there was a lot of traffic going on in the house, unfortunately. I like the fact in the Banfield body cam video, when the police is talking to the miners, they said, oh, it's an awfully quiet night. If they only knew. At the minute they were talking, that horrific things were about to happen. It's so sad. It's really heartbreaking, and I wish those victims could have been saved. But I personally do not believe the affidavit of DM. Everyone's entitled to believe what they believe. I'm always honest and straightforward. Something doesn't sit right with that affidavit. I believe there was more that happened. All she could come out was bushy eyebrows. It's strange that she saw bushy eyebrows in the dark. I could understand if she said the guy was tall. She did say an athletic build, but she could have given more descriptions, like he was wearing this, he had on gloves, if he had on glasses. But bushy eyebrows are difficult to see in the dark. And then DM managed to call or text BF. They locked themselves in one room or separate rooms, went off to sleep like nothing happened. While 4 people, God bless their souls, may they rest in peace, were dead or were bleeding out. We never know if one of them could be saved or 2 of them. Kaylee Congalves, may she rest in peace, came back that night to show her car to Maddie. She was moving to Austin. I always look at motives. I know that motives are not important for law enforcement and for the courts, but I believe they should be important because mostly statistically, people who end up unaliving people have a reason, whether it's mental health illness, whether it's grudge and revenge, whether it's an accidentally unaliving someone, whether it's pre-planned, there's always a motive. I don't see any motive with Bryan Kohberger. All I hear from the news is that he learned criminology in his master's, psychology in his bachelor's, crime and justice in his master's, and criminology in his PhD. And he was teaching students in Washington, Pullman. Unless he was a very sick man, mentally disturbed, that he decided to pre-plan to unalive these 4 people, it doesn't make sense. And for him to have done it in 14 minutes, it doesn't make sense. We heard the coroner saying that the wounds and injuries of the 4 victims were not the same. We heard Steve Congalves saying the same, that his daughter, may she rest in peace, Kaylee Congalves, and Maddie, he said their wounds were not the same. And let's not forget they were sleeping in the same bed. So why wasn't their wounds the same? Why was it different? Was it 2 different weapons? Or 2 different people with 2 different weapons? Clearly, Xana Conodal fought for her life. She was defending herself to a stage where her fingers were badly damaged. So I believe, Percy, whoever did this couldn't have been one person. There were many people involved, and I personally believe the boys in the Banfield stop should be investigated properly. They didn't even know where they were going and where they came from. The direction they pointed out to was this direction, Kings Road and Queens Road. So why wasn't the police questioning them more? One of the boys had his arms crossed the whole time. There's only once he put it down a bit for a second, I would say. What was he hiding? He was shaking the whole time, and it's not because it was cold, because it wasn't that cold. I could see the other boys, they weren't shaking. He looked like he was having an anxiety episode there. Where did those 3 come from? And the bushy eye. That is the one who has really bushy eyes. I don't want to say his name, but we all know mostly his name. So what was exactly happening? We saw one with a glove on. Where's the other glove? Is it the glove that fell in front of the house? Allegedly. The police asked them how much do you have to drink. At the start they were lying, then they said 6 beers, the other one said 8 beers. And the police said, oh, I stopped here because y'all are minors and all, but I can see y'all are drunk. That's exactly the word he used. And y'all should be more careful. He gave them a lecture. Why didn't the police say, what do you have in your hands? Put your hands down. That's what the police usually do.
Sedan matching Kohberger's Hyundai Elantra was spotted in the area of the murder scene from 3:29 a.m. until 4:20 a.m. Court documents show the vehicle drove by the house 3 times, about 3:30 in the morning, before leaving the road. Then at 4:04, the car returned to the street and parked. Then it left the street at a high rate of speed at about 4:20 in the morning. The suspect's car was spotted back on the Washington State campus at 5:25 a.m. However, that wasn't the first time that Kohberger's car was near the victim's house. Was Kohberger stalking the victims? That's a question investigators sought to answer when they obtained a search warrant for records from Kohberger's cell phone. Court records say on at least 12 occasions prior to the murders, including one time back in August, Kohberger's phone was detected near the murder scene in late evening and early morning hours. 2 weeks into the murder investigation, a break in the case. On November 25th, police asked the public to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra. On November 29th, a WSU police officer looked up Elantras registered at the school. One of those was Kohberger's. Investigators tracked him from Washington State to Pennsylvania in mid-December in that same car.
Hello, how you doing? How y'all doing today?
I will say that we have found an Elantra.
But it was DNA evidence that solidified Kohberger as investigators' prime suspect. The 18-page affidavit says the Idaho State Lab found a single source of male DNA labeled suspect profile on the button snap of a knife sheath left at the crime scene.
The reason DNA is so compelling is because it is a unique signature. Unless you have an identical twin, no one has your exact DNA.
Cece Moore is the chief genetic genealogist with Parabon. She pioneered the genetic technology used in solving cases like the Golden State Killer. The techniques can crack a case with a tiny sample of DNA.
Based on the affidavit in this case, it looks like touch DNA is likely what they had to work with. That's just skin cells.
Kohberger's affidavit, tiny sample of DNA.
Based on the affidavit in this case, it looks like touch DNA is likely what they had to work with. That's just skin cells.
So the police and the FBI just got touch DNA. That's just skin cells. That is not much. That is not much. That's shocking, actually. Because touch DNA can come from anywhere. Kohberger could have touched someone and they could have touched the knife sheath. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I know the knife sheath is the one that is puzzling. But if touch DNA is all they have, it's going to be difficult. Although I do understand that they made a profile of him, the phone pinged and all, but it doesn't mean that necessarily that he went inside the crime scene. I wonder if the neighbors' dash cam showed that part of him entering the house and exiting the house. I doubt.
Of DNA.
Based on the affidavit in this case, it looks like touch DNA is likely what they had to work with. That's just skin cells.
Kohberger's affidavit shows that on December 27th, Pennsylvania agents took trash from his parents' home in Albrightsville.
The Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, has ruled that when we throw something away, we are abandoning that. So we are abandoning our DNA everywhere we go. And it has been ruled, at least so far, that that's fair game for law enforcement.
That trash was sent to the Idaho State Lab, and within a day, the lab had another profile.
It certainly appears that they retrieved his father's DNA from the trash.
Investigators reporting more than 99.9% of the male population is not expected to be the suspect's biological father.
Those are the ones that we hear in court. Those are the ones we hear law enforcement using as evidence, that there's a 1 in huge number chance that anybody else could be that DNA contributor or be the parent of that DNA contributor.
3 days after the investigators went through the trash, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home on December 30th. Early on, police learned Kohberger had an above-average understanding of police investigative tactics. According to court records, Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology, cloud-based forensics.
He was definitely well-mannered, very intelligent.
He received his associate's degree in psychology at Northampton Community College in Pennsylvania in 2018. He then went on to DeSales University, also in Pennsylvania, for his bachelor's degree, then his master's in criminal justice. He studied under renowned criminal psychologist Catherine Ramsland, whose books include The Mind of a Murderer and How to Catch a Killer.
He was definitely selectively quiet. I think once you got him going on something that he was interested in, it was very clear that that was where he would take the initiative and say, hey, here's how much I know about this thing.
In May, just before he graduated, authorities confirmed he posted this Reddit survey asking participants to, quote, provide information to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. He asked questions like, how did you leave the scene? How did you accomplish your goal? And how did you approach the victim? Investigators also now know Kohberger applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay he had interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. During his time at Washington State University, Kohberger was listed as the teaching assistant for 3 undergrad classes in the Criminal Justice Department. He completed 1 semester in WSU's PhD program before he was arrested.
You never expect someone to do that, and I think it would be, not truthful to say, like, oh yeah, I definitely saw it coming, but like, really thinking about it, it's not that surprising.
Kohberger was extradited to Idaho January 4th. He remains behind bars without bail.
A criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary.
The next step in the legal process is a preliminary hearing, where prosecutors present evidence and witnesses in an open court. The judge will also decide whether to send the case to district court. That hearing is set for the week of June 26th. Kohberger will then have an arraignment hearing, where he will enter a plea of guilty or not guilty.
If the prosecutors and the defendants want to, they can engage in plea negotiations. Otherwise, both sides will begin to prepare their case for trial. Unclear how quickly a trial could occur.
So how strong is the case against Kohberger?
What the police have done here is generated a host of circumstantial pieces of evidence. So, we have a car here, we have a sheath here, we have a surveillance footage at this time, and we have this. And together, that overall circle paints a picture of we can put this person here at this particular time when these happen.
What we don't...
I do agree that they painted a picture and put things together, like the knife sheet, his whereabouts, the phone ping, and such things, which is completely understandable. But how did they get the genealogical? DNA is the question. Did they get it legally or illegally? Is the court going to allow to use it or not? Another thing, it doesn't paint the picture that actually Kohberger went out of his car, went inside the house, and did these horrific murders. That is hard for me to believe unless a camera caught him going in and coming out. He could just be a peeper who always goes and peeps into the house from the outside, because most of the time they don't have curtains. We've seen a lot of parties going on in the house. It's a party house. I'm more concerned about the local people, the college students who used to come to this house to party, because we've heard Olivia Cayley, a sister, saying that everybody seemed to have had the code. Is that why the door was left wide open? And is this picture that they're painting strong enough to convince a judge? In fact, to convince a jury. The jury is going to have doubts, and I don't understand the reason that they want to bring down the house. If they destroy the residency, it's going to be difficult for the jury to have a fair shot of making a right decision. They need to see exactly how the house looks, the whereabouts of the house, because I personally believe whoever did this knows the house, knows the bedrooms. Like the police said, it was a targeted incident. Kohberger hasn't been in that house before. Others we would have heard it by now. And imagine, let's not forget, Kohberger has an eye condition. It was a snow vision. So he can't see properly at night. What I'm searching for is just a fair trial. Because I know there are people out there who are involved in this crime. I can clearly see that with my eyes. There was so much going on in the grub truck, but there was more going on in the Banfield body cam. You could see the pictures the guy was watching. A man with a white mask, people tied up. I hate to say that there was a lot going on in those pictures. Why didn't the police investigate that properly? Where did those 3 minors and the guy with the bushy eyebrows come from? They were very close to the house. The timing was between 3 to 4. The police body cam with the minors ended at 3:12. I believe the timeline that the police gave us in the beginning, that it was between 3 to 4. I don't understand why they changed it. Is it to fit their profile? Fit their painting of the roadmap that they're making? I personally think it was a case of targeting 1, 2, or 3 of the victims.
What police have done here is generated a host of circumstantial pieces of evidence. So, we have a car here, we have a sheath here, we have a surveillance footage at this time, and we have this. And together, that overall circle paints a picture of we can put this person here at this particular time when these happen.
What we don't know yet is if Moscow police have found the murder weapon, likely a knife similar to this one, or if they've confirmed a motive. But University of Idaho Assistant Professor of Law Sam Newton says it's safe to assume they're still gathering evidence, meaning new tips are still helpful.
They think they have enough to sustain at least an arrest and moving forward there. They may not feel like they have enough to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And so releasing the name of the suspect to the public allows the police to get more information to solidify their case.
Newton says the defense may consider options like asking to move the case to another jurisdiction, and will comb through the other tips collected. If Kohberger were to be convicted, sentencing could range up to the death penalty.
The maximum penalty for this offense, if you were to plead guilty or be found guilty, is death or imprisonment for life. Do you understand?
Yes.
Lethal injection is permitted in some cases in the state of Idaho and Latah County. Prosecutor Bill Thompson will ultimately make the determination of whether or not the death penalty is pursued here. But he's not talking.
We are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom.
The court's gag order means investigators can't release information until the facts are exposed in court or in public documents.
There appear to be indications that the magistrate judge does have some concerns about information that could be released to the public and therefore prevent us from finding an unbiased jury for this case.
Experts have pointed to holes in the case. Still, the prosecuting attorney is expressing optimism.
This is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning.
This is not the end of the case, this is just a beginning. That was the words used by Thompson, the prosecutor. I don't believe that they have a strong case. I really do not believe. Most likely they don't have the murder weapon, because maybe it was in Kohberger, maybe it was other people who've done it and taken the weapon with them. I know they don't have to share the evidence, but now we're like almost a year, almost 10 months, 9 months since the quadruple murders happened. So it doesn't make sense. Is that the reason he's not turning in the 3 unidentified male DNAs? It was the prosecutor Thompson that told Bryan Enton that it was a targeted incident. And when Bryan asked him, he said it was the resident that was targeted. Chief Fry on the left said that it was a targeted incident, but they still did not know if it was the roommates, basically if it was the 4 people that were targeted, or 1 or 2 of them, or if it was the residents. Later on they changed it to, no, there wasn't the residents or nobody, and no house or no residents or no people were targeted. And I find that a bit fishy.
This is a new beginning.
We're in eastern Pennsylvania. Bryan Kohberger spent his teenage years and most of his adult life here. That includes stints at 2 local colleges, including DeSales. Now police and prosecutors in this area want to know what he was up to all those years and are digging into their cold case files.
Just outside the open wilderness and resort towns of the Pocono Mountains lies a neighborhood called the Birches.
It's just a very quiet community.
These are the streets an accused killer once roamed as a teenager.
I've definitely seen it on TV. Who hasn't?
Now, Lynn Klein and others in the Pennsylvania communities where Bryan Kohberger lived until last year want to know if he could have committed any crimes before he was charged with the murders at the University of Idaho.
Guys, I'm sorry. I have a sore throat today, so just bear with me. The part that they're just talking about, I can confirm because I put clips up from ABC News and NBC News. They have checked in Pennsylvania, they've checked the whole of the east areas near Kohberger's homes and other states nearby, and it's come up negative. Kohberger hasn't committed any crimes in Pennsylvania or in those areas. So this is the first crime he's been charged for. He doesn't have a criminal record, and he's been a student with one of the best students Dr. Ramsley, the professor, said it at the beginning. She told a reporter that he was one of her favorite students. He was an excellent student. I don't understand. What would make him do this? Is it to prove, if he's done it, is it to prove that he can beat the system and get away with a quadruple murder? If he did it, he deserves the death penalty. But if he did not do it, justice needs to be served right. They need to bring out the 3 unidentified male DNAs. But I personally believe they're not going to do that because they know it's the college kids, allegedly. They know it's local, and that is not going to that wouldn't look good for new students to enroll in the university. 40% of the income of Idaho Moscow comes from the students. Let's not forget that. We've seen concerning things, the grub truck, the Banfield video, a lot was going on. We've heard a lot, rumors, speculations, witnesses, people coming forth from the nearby houses, without mentioning their names, saying that they saw and they heard this and that. So we've got all kind of facts, rumors, everything, and it points out to other directions. A bit points out to Brian Christopher Kohberger, but not everything. I don't know if you'll remember the case of Barry Morphew and Suzanne Morphew. I hope they find Suzanne Morphew. She went missing in 2020 on Mother's Day. Her 2 daughters went on a camping trip. Barry Morphew said that he went to his work. He was far away. They're from Colorado. So basically, they tried to paint the case of Barry Morphew, his phone, where it was pinging and when. Barry Morphew came up in this video, in this body cam or this CCTV footage that he rented a hotel, and his co-workers said that when they came to basically exchange the shift with him or something, that there was a strong smell of bleach, chlorine in the room. And he tried to say that it was from the swimming pool, but it was COVID time and the swimming pool was closed. We saw Barry Morphew throwing dustbins in 5 different places, in 5 different containers. Nobody knows what he's thrown. But this case went back and forth. He got arrested for 10 months. He hired the best lawyers, and at once, immediately, the lawyers demanded that to the court that the case needs to be changed to another court that is a bigger city so that Barry Morphew doesn't get an unfair trial. Honestly, people have their different opinions. I personally believe Barry Morphew was involved in whatever happened to missing Suzanne. But point being, he got away with it. After 10 months, it was a mistrial, and they had to drop all the charges. And now, his defense attorney is actually suing the prosecution because they said it was unfair terms, the way they dealt with Barry Morphew's case. Barry Morphew is free with his daughters in their early 20s. So at least when I look at it that way, The daughters have their father at least. It's sad that Suzanne Morphew is still missing. If you want, look into that case because it reminds me at least a lot. Barry Morphew's case reminds me of Bryan Kohberger, although Barry Morphew didn't do a quadruple murder. It was just that his wife is missing up to today. So what I'm trying to say is they tried to do the same thing, paint a picture of his phone pinging in different places. Although they had him on camera, CCTV camera, throwing in 5 different garbages, he still got away with it. Became a mistrial. So this is my concern. If Bryan Kohberger's case becomes a mistrial, I feel sorry for the families of Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan. Anything is possible. That's why I want them to really investigate other places like the Banfield video. Where did these 3 unidentified male DNAs come from?
That's been harmed or done wrong to deserves to know the truth.
It isn't just citizens. Police and prosecutors have asked the same question.
Your natural reaction is to start wondering, okay, is this guy wanted? Is his name out there? Did he do anything here in Northampton County? Terry Houck.
Terrence Houck is district attorney of Northampton County and leads an office of more than 20 prosecutors and a half dozen detectives. It's here at Northampton Community College where Bryan Kohberger took his first courses in higher education, graduating here in 2018. After Kohberger's arrest for the Idaho murders, Northampton County's district attorney ordered a review of unsolved cases in his county.
We have a crime information center that compiles information of people's description, size, weight, height, method of operation, things of that nature.
Obviously, you wonder whether or not there was any criminality that he committed here in Lehigh County or in the environs.
Jim Martin, district attorney of the neighboring county, Lehigh, also ordered a review of unsolved cases. Lehigh County is home to DeSales University, which Kohberger attended after Northampton Community College. He spent 4 years here studying criminal justice.
Bryan Kohberger.
Earning a master's degree last summer. What does law enforcement do given that he did spend time here?
Well, we have a resource here called the Regional Intelligence and Investigation Center. It's the first thing I did was I asked the director of the RIC, as we call it, to see if we had any contact with Mr. Kohberger.
A data search of more than 6 million police incident reports in Pennsylvania turned up only one record with Kohberger's name. He called police from this bike trail one night to report that his car was locked behind a park gate.
There was a response from him thanking the police and apologizing for the inconvenience.
The district attorney in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, where Kohberger grew up and where a SWAT team arrested him on December 30th, did not respond to our questions. But in Northampton and Lehigh counties, both district attorneys say their investigations have found no links to Kohberger and any unsolved cases.
So we have no unsolved homicides that in any way meet the modus operandi of this event out in Idaho.
There was nothing been brought to my attention. In fact, nothing with respect to Kohberger has come about in our investigations of cold cases or unsolved cases to this point.
That is definitely a relief that there is no cold cases in Monroe County, Northampton County, and Lehigh County. None of them have any cold cases connected to Christopher Bryan Kohberger. We heard that clearly. So this man doesn't have a criminal record. The question is, what would make him go and do a quadruple murder? That doesn't make sense to me. unless he just wanted to beat the system and see if he could get away with such a horrific crime. And if that is the case, he deserves what's coming to him. But if he didn't do it, then fair justice should be served. I don't like the fact that most of the YouTube creators are just saying that he's guilty. I'm not saying that he's innocent, but I'm not saying that he's guilty either. I need more proof. It's not just going to help with the genealogical DNA. There is actually a touch DNA on top of that. It's not blood DNA, the way it looks like.